Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. And this weekend was the two Berlin ePrix races from Formula E. And I honestly think this could be one of the biggest races in the championship. I've been to Berlin, it's a lovely city. And I'd love to go back, especially to watch the Formula E there. I think this is the city where there has been the most Formula E races, because in COVID times they did like 6 of them there, which made sense at the time. So Berlin has played a big part in Formula E's history. And as I said, I think it could again, because this was a fantastic weekend for Nick Cassidy in the Jaguar. Took a win in race 1, even after not qualifying particularly well. And he finished second in race 2. Big points for him. Puts him back in the championship lead with only 6 races left. And just all round a very, very solid weekend. Now, in Formula E, a lot can happen in 6 races. It's still anyone's championship. Any number of drivers could win this. There's kind of 4 or 5 who I think are now the clear title picture. But you could be surprised in Formula E. Just ask Maxi Günther, who has been fantastic all year and has now crashed out of both Berlin races and is really put himself out of any kind of title contention if he was ever in it. But Nick Cassidy, he is an incredible driver. Super Formula champion. He's one of those drivers who I look at and think he should be in Formula 1. He is really good. There's not a category of racing I've seen him take part in where he hasn't excelled. And I think he has really found his home in Formula E. He is driving superbly at the moment. He was one of the best drivers last year. Really only just missed out on the title because of Envision I think Envision messed it up for him, although it was always an uphill task. But Envision made a mistake with their team management last year, cost Nick Cassidy the Drivers' Championship. You got to hope Jaguar don't make the same mistake, but at the moment, Nick Cassidy is one of the best drivers of 2024. As I said, I think there's 5 or 6 drivers who could be in title contention, but Pascal Wehrlein has to be the main title protagonist, and he really dropped the ball this weekend. He scored points in both races, but he finished behind Nick Cassidy in both races as well, and he just doesn't make those big moves. Just want to see him I feel like Pascal Wehrlein's a bit too careful, although there was a lot of contact this weekend and Wehrlein was involved in that as well, especially with Dennis. But I feel like he doesn't make those big moves in the race to really push for podiums and wins. But when he's in control of a race, he controls it very well. And you can't count him out for this championship. It's far too early to really push anyone out of the title picture. Apart from Nick Cassidy, another driver who's really excelling this year, who is really surprising me, is Oliver Rowland, who took 2 more podiums this weekend. And again, finished ahead of Wehrlein in both races. He's 3rd in the championship. He's not a million miles off Nick Cassidy. Oliver Rowland is another one who you definitely cannot count out. And I'm surprised as anyone, because Nissan have been rubbish for years. Nissan haven't been good since they were Renault Edams in season 3. Maybe 4 at best. Honestly, I did not expect anything at all from Rowland this year, to be honest. And here he is. He is being really consistent. I think to finish 3rd, he gained like 13 or 14 places in that second Berlin race. He's doing an incredible job. Sasha Fenestraz was one of the top drivers last year, I felt, and he was really unlucky in getting taken out of races, not getting results. That's been even more the case this year. He's been involved in contact that wasn't necessarily his fault. And again, this weekend did not go great for Fenestraz. Shame, because if he could play back up to Rowland, you'd have to think that Rowland is a major part of this championship now. Others behind him, Da Costa's quite far away. He's had a bad year, but this win, if it kickstarts something off, he could be a title contender. He is good enough. He is a former champion. Jean-Eric Vergne did not have a great weekend this weekend, but again, you can't count him out. He's a wily old master. He could get back into title contention. I think Van Dorn's a bit too far away, and honestly, the last couple of years he hasn't been great anyway. But I think, honestly, Mitch Evans again, he's not had the best year all round. He's definitely fallen short of his teammate, but he has been cranking out results in the last few races. He could honestly still do it. And honestly, that puts Jaguar in a great position for the Teams Championship as well. Like, the Teams Championship, I do 100% truly believe is between Jaguar and Porsche. And at the moment, Felix Acosta's poor start to the year has put them on the back foot. But honestly, those two teams they have two good drivers each who are scoring good points. There isn't really another team like that at the moment. DS Penske kind of, but Van Dorn's not having a great year. So if Vern's also not winning races all the time, they're not going to feature in the Teams Championship. Andretti only really have Jake Dennis. Norman Nato's not scoring enough points. Nissan only really have Oliver Rowland. Fenestraz isn't scoring enough points. Envision, both drivers have had rough years, and neither was actually at this race, and they were both replaced, which I'll get onto that in a minute. But that does mean, like, the Teams Championship is not as wide open as the Drivers' Championship. Now, actually, onto that, before Berlin, this race was a bit of a mess. I think, honestly, someone should have looked at the calendar for this, noticed it was on the same weekend as a World Endurance race, and moved it, because World Endurance does take precedence over this for some of these drivers. So we lost, as I said, Envision did not have Buemi or Freins because they are both racing in the World Endurance Championship. So they had two different drivers, Joel Eriksson and Paul Aaron, which they did fine. Joel Eriksson even scored some points. But, I mean, it does make this series look a bit Bush League in comparison. They weren't the only ones. Taylor Barnard, I was unwell when Monaco happened, so I didn't get to talk about Taylor Barnard then. But he is honestly one of the best young drivers around right now. And I've seen him race in several different series, various Formula Regional, Formula 2. He is really, really good. And to come in as a substitute for Sam Bird, who I think has a broken hand or something, he has done a brilliant job. I don't know if we'll see him back at the next race in China, which is in a couple of weeks' time, because next week we have I think Formula 2's back on at Imola. He might not travel to both. Maybe he will. He could. But it's asking a lot. But then he needs the experience. And honestly, I think for McLaren, he's done a great job. He should have finished 7th in the second Berlin ePrix, but he did finish 8th. He got points, so he's done a fantastic job on his probably only a few Formula E starts. Maybe he'll be back one day, maybe not, we don't know. It could be like Pierre Gasly, where he just comes in for a substitute race and does really, really well. Kelvin van der Linde was in this race as well for Nico Müller, and he didn't do too badly. He finished 11th in the first Berlin race, so I mean, that's not awful. That actually puts him ahead of Nick De Vries in the championship at the moment, who is the only other full-time driver who hasn't scored points, which is a little bit embarrassing. As for everything else that happened, there wasn't too much. Jehan Deruvala should have scored more points than he did. He did a good job to finish 7th in race 2, but he was in the points in race 1 and ended up locking up and driving into the back of someone, wrecking his own race. But he has got better, so definite signs of improvement from Jehan Deruvala. I think he'll score more points before year's end. Some of the old people, like Lucas Di Grassi, who's been around forever, is still not having a great season. But Mahindra, they did score their first points this weekend. Eduardo Mortara did score some points for them. It has been woeful for Mahindra this year, but Mortara finally gets something on the board. Other than that, Joel Eriksson, Barnard scored points. There wasn't really too much out of the ordinary with the point scorers this weekend. But this was another good Formula E round. I found it to be very, very exciting. I can't wait to see this season run in. It ends in July, so we haven't got long. There's only 3 rounds left with 2 races each. I think we're in Shanghai in a couple of weeks, and then it's like a month gap to Portland, USA, and then I think another month to London. So that this series, as I said, wide open at the moment. Very hard to pick a champion, but Nick Cassidy is doing a fantastic job. I think it's going to be very hard to look past him. But Wehrlein is a very good driver, and there are others who could come up yet and surprise them. So, who knows? Let me know in the comments who you think will be Formula E champion. What did you think of the Berlin ePrix? Thank you very much for watching. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and thank you to everyone who has. And thank you for watching this video. Most importantly of all, have a good one.